throw lightning at 6 different people at the same time, yeah, I'm going to do that. Dawn of War is coming back! Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we're twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and to give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. Welcome to our cantina, grab a drink, and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 131. Today's recording date is October 16th, and this episode will be released on Monday, October 20th.
If you have noticed, we have a special guest with us this week. Jeficus returns to the podcast. Could you just give a quick intro of who you are and what you're up to?
Hello everybody, I am Jeficus, and I am a YouTuber and Twitch streamer nowadays who basically focuses almost exclusively on Warhammer content. I really love Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar, and fantasy. It's just a shame that we don't have more Age of Sigmar and fantasy games. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Andrew and Nathan.
Always happy to have you. And this is the second time we're having you on the podcast. It has been a hot minute since we've had you on. Hopefully you're doing well. We see some cool things happening over at your channel on YouTube.
Oh yeah, man. I actually just recently got like a Discord as well, and like it's kind of nuts, like building a community and everything. Like being able to do things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do, just kind of putting videos and shorts out and everything. Like it's really cool.
We've seen a significant uptick in just like the amount of views that your videos are drawing. Like, I always watch your videos. I love all of your Dark Tide builds. I haven't booted up the game in like months, and I'm just like, oh dude, this is a cool build. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just like making them, and I like sharing pretty much just what I'm using, regardless if it's like a meta build or whatever. I just kind of like having fun with the game, so.
That's so awesome, yeah. And I mean, that's like the whole point, is like sometimes people can like drift more towards the meta, and sometimes you can like, hey, this is a stupid fun build. We love to see it. For today's episode, we're going to be primarily talking about Dawn of War 4. If for those longtime fans of the franchise, we got 2 different trailers. They were short trailers. They have announced that Dawn of War 4 is coming back. This is actually a little surprising for me, because I didn't think Dawn of War 3 was all that great. What did you think overall of Dawn of War 3, Jeficus?
Oh, I thought it was horrible. I think the direction that they went in for Dawn of War 3 was terrible. They shouldn't have like basically tried to make the game an esport. They really tried to take a lot of inspiration from things like Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, with a lot of their mechanics. They kind of sacrificed the story for multiplayer. And it was really evident that they designed the game with a payment model in mind, because they wanted to sell as many races and factions as they could right off the bat, only releasing 3 factions instead of kind of the traditional 4 at the very least, and it really watered the entire experience down. I suppose if you were a competitive player, you may have liked it, but the issue is that there are already competitive games out there that RTS players enjoy, so they're not leaving them to go experience something new.
Absolutely. I totally agree. The little I played of Dawn of War 3, I felt like it was a little insulting actually to be called Dawn of War, because it was moving so far away from the classic RTS. And you actually mentioned 2 of my like all-time favorite RTS games, specifically Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. Yeah. StarCraft 2, which I actually still play on a daily basis. It is like something I can knock out super, super quick, play around a co-op. And it is at least for me, it is the de facto standard that I hold RTS games to.
Yeah, and the key difference between something like StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, and Dawn of War 3 was that they didn't sacrifice the campaigns, the single-player aspects of Warcraft 3 or StarCraft 2. The story was kind of a primary driver for those games, and I think that was pretty much the key to both of the game's success. That and of course having a really crazy modding scene. So
for sure, and with such a rich narrative that Warhammer 40k has, to totally strike out on the story feels like a huge missed opportunity. And again, surprised that they're making a Dawn of War 4. It seems like the general consensus is that they're going back to their roots. I mean, literally, they are going back to the planet Kronos, which was the planet for Dark Crusade, which was the second expansion to the first game, which is, well, that's a little confusing. They're like, okay, this clearly wasn't working. We're going to go back to something we know. And so I would say the bar is extremely high. But what we wanted to hear a little bit from you is what has your experience been over the years playing Dawn of War? What did you like? What didn't you like? Give us a quick rundown of what your experience has been.
Well, Dawn of War was my very first game. I mean, my channel's avatar is a Blood Raven. Like, I've dedicated a lot of my, like, Warhammer 40k fandom to the Blood Ravens. They are my favorite chapter, just because I have such a nostalgic attachment to Dawn of War. I really enjoyed the very, very, very first Dawn of War campaign with Gabriel Angelos and the betrayal and chaos and everything. I thought it was fantastic. Fast forward through, the Dark Crusade, Winter Assault, and Soulstorm. When Dawn of War 2 came out, I actually started to, stopped playing RTS as much. But the entire experience for the game was saved for me because Dawn of War 2 doesn't really play like a conventional RTS. It's very hero-focused or, commander-focused. And the story was great. The fact that you can play as each of the factions in Dawn of War 2 Retribution was great. And then I spent just hundreds of hours in the Last Stand mode, which is basically you just control one hero. It's kind of like the OG, like, Warhammer 40k Horde survival mode. And then, of course, Dawn of War 3 came out, and I was just not interested after completing the story. Like, the gameplay just did not entice me enough. Just complete garbage. So went on to play other games.
Absolutely. I felt like Dawn of War 2 was a little bit of a different genre, had some playability to it. Dawn of War 3 really fell flat. Just for our listeners at home, I actually have some interesting things to pull up. Just so you guys are tracking, Dawn of War, the first one, came out in 2004. Winter Assault in 2005. Dark Crusade in 2006. Soulstorm in 2008. So the first installment of Dawn of War, 4 years of releases, and I felt like they did really, really well with that. They included a lot of different factions, and they ended up making several different bundled packets of this throughout the years, which I have bought probably multiple times at this point. I have on different machines, different copies, and we had physical discs of Dawn of War for a long, long time. Very excited for Dawn of War 4, though. Really excited to that return to form. It's a really special game for me. I don't know about you, Andrew. Maybe you started reading before I did, but Dawn of War was my big, like, kick down the door moment of getting into Warhammer 40,000. Technically, I played Space Hulk for, like, a little bit, but I didn't know what really was happening. I didn't even actually realize that was Warhammer 40k until later. And then I started playing Dawn of War, and I was like, this is sick. I want more of this.
Do you remember what system we played Space Hulk on growing up?
The 3DO.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has ever heard of this system, but there was a system called the 3DO, and that was technically our first real exposure to Warhammer, but like you said, Dawn of War really started it for me. So much so that I remember the PC that we grew up playing on was slow. It was not good. It was just a PC. I think my dad even got it from like Goodwill or like Walmart, like kind of a bargain PC. The load times were so long for games like Soulstorm and Dark Crusade that in between games, I was reading Warhammer books. I was like, this is taking too long. I mean, we're talking like a 20-minute load. Like, you just, all right, I'm going to load up this game and go do some other stuff, and hopefully when I come back, it's ready to go.
Oh, dude, I remember those days when I was younger. I had two siblings, and we were all gamers. My dad was a gamer, we were gamers, and he bought us all PCs, and we were all really big into WoW back then. And we would go into like Stormwind or Orgrimmar, and it would just be pixels. Just 0 frames, just like barely moving through the city. It's like, oh, I just want to complete this quest, please, please, please. And it wasn't for like a long time that we until we upgraded. It was just absolutely absurd. But nowadays, I think like $400, $500 laptop could probably run WoW just fine.
For sure. for sure. Some background for our listeners. Like we said before, Dawn of War 4 is going to be returning to the planet Kronos. This is where the Necrons were introduced. Kronos was the site of the first Dawn of War game's second expansion, Dark Crusade, which brought the Necrons to the game along with the Tau Empire. I think that's a little fact that I think Nathan really enjoyed, because you like the Tau, and I think you're starting a Tau army. Is that true?
Yes, I have my first 2 boxes of Tau kit sitting on my other desk inside my office. Currently, I have a crisis team, which I'm putting together, and I have the box unopened, so it's my first installment of my own pile of shame for a new army, of a Tau Hammerhead gunship. So very excited to blow some dreadnoughts off the table with that, specifically Andrew's dreadnoughts. So
Pourquoi? My dreadnoughts. Oh man, when we played our little combat patrol over this summer when we went camping, that is the first game of Warhammer tabletop I've won in like years. I'm not a good Warhammer player. We've said that on the podcast a lot. It is written in stone. I suck, but I enjoy it. During that time, bringing the Tau Empire and the Necrons into the game brought the total amount of playable factions up to 7, which in an RTS, that's kind of unheard of. Like, that's a lot of factions. They're kind of, they're really deep. We had the Blood Ravens, Jeficus, like you said. These guys are awesome. We're hopefully going to do an episode in the future specifically just about the Blood Ravens lore, where they come from, or rather where we think they come from. We also were introduced to the Necrons, like we said. Craft World Uthway, the Eldar, were reintroduced, as well as the Evil Sons clan. The Word Bearers show up, and additionally, the 1st Kronos Regiment of the Imperial Guard. Oh, and like I said, the Tower here, they're here too. They technically were the rulers of the planet at the start, and quickly lose control of the planet's surface. Now, next question. So we've kind of talked about kind of what's coming up, and we've talked about a little bit of the past, but let's talk specifically, how would you rank the previous Dawn of War games? So just a quick recap. We've had the original Dawn of War 1, Winter Assault, Dark Crusade, and Soulstorm. Those are all expansions for the first game. Dawn of War 2, which also included 2 expansions, Chaos Rising and Retribution. And then we had Dawn of War 3, no expansions.
Okay, so mine, like, I have to go with really basing this on time played. That's really where I'm going to be kind of putting my rankings here. So that means I'm going to be putting Dawn of War Soulstorm as my top. Absolutely. That was also my first introduction to the factions. I believe it was the Dark Eldar, Sisters of Battle, and I can't remember if there was one other faction that got introduced with that, or if it was just those 2. Okay, perfect. And I was like, I had no idea these even existed. I was like, there are evil space elves? I thought the normal ones were evil, but I'm like, cool, this is awesome. And then I realized that
they're all evil.
They're all evil. Absolutely.
Correct answer.
Good Eldar is actually just a dead Eldar. And I ended up beating the game with every faction. And that was so hard just because you went from such different play styles. And I did beat the game. I beat Soulstorm multiple times playing the Tau because I'm an absolute Tau stan. I love being able to just gun down armies all at once. After Soulstorm, I would definitely put the original. Again, that was just like my foray into Warhammer 40k, so it does hold a really special place in my heart. The storyline of Gabriel Angelos is like just really awesome. I really enjoyed that story. Then I would say Dark Crusade because the Necrons are hella spooky and just really enjoyed playing with them. And of course, the Tau, of course, you know, pew-pews. Winter Assault, I should say I'm putting all of my Dawn of War 1s at the top here. And these are close. Like, these are all like really, really fun. I really liked playing the Imperial Guard. The only thing I didn't like was managing such big squads, because I was just like, I felt like I was constantly just hitting the R key to reinforce all of my squads, and I was like, oh my god, they just keep dying. And I guess that's how the Emperor feels. He's like, oh wow, you're all dying. What a shame. For me, I guess. And I really came to love Leman Russ tanks. I that's kind of where I fell in love with like artillery and the Leman Russ and the Leman Russ, the Basilisks, artilleries. I just loved all of that so much, and I would basically use all of my troops as fodder so I could get all of my cannons into position and then use those to do my dirty work. I would definitely put Dawn of War 2 right after that, just because I did get quite a bit less playtime on that one, and then I couldn't stomach Dawn of War 3, but that is going to be a tie for last, actually, for Chaos Rising and Retribution, because I did not play either of those. So I'm like, I didn't play them, can't really give a good opinion on them, but Dawn of War 3, I'm like, I'm just going to tie those all for last. So
that's fair.
That would be my ranking.
Jeficus, you're up. How would you rate the Dawn of War games?
Well, I guess I would have two different ratings. One would be, so I've been reading a lot of 40K books, guys. I'm deep in. Like I'm invested.
Yes!
I've just the entire Horus Heresy I read basically in under a year. I just ate those books. Like I was going book after book after book. You got a long commute going to work, so you just listen at 2 times speed, and you just
That's
get it
incredible.
done.
Dude, same here.
Bro.
All of 2024, my entire book list is just Horus Heresy.
Exactly. But from a story perspective, I find that the best game is Chaos Rising. And Dawn of War 2, Chaos Rising. And it was because for an RTS at the time, there weren't really many that were giving the player a story where you can make choices that led to like a good ending or a bad ending. And I really love the premise of Chaos Rising because you basically get a bunch of different Chaos artifacts and war gear, and they make the game easier. And you go, oh, if I just use the Chaos stuff, then I could just beat the game. And that's the entire trick with Chaos. And I love how they worked it into the game mechanics. And so if you wanted to use the best gear in the game, you can, but by the end of it, you would fall to Chaos. And if you wanted to go the pure route, right, and kind of like side with the Blood Ravens and the Emperor, no matter how hard the path is, then you would get the good ending. I really, really enjoyed that at the time, especially for the game being an RTS. This isn't, Mass Effect or anything like that, where you would have expected stuff like choices. So it was really unique at the time. For the rest of it, I liked the OG Dawn of War story with Gabriel Angelos, the introduction to the Blood Ravens, etc., etc. I probably just have a nostalgic attachment to it, but that entire story basically summarizes like half of the Space Marine like books out there, where it's just like, all right, you got this awesome Space Marine character. He's got his best bro, and his best bro betrayed him and turned to chaos. Well, shit. What do we do now? So that's
really accurate.
Yeah, it's like, oh, classic. But the rest of them, I will say that it all kind of like meshes together for me story-wise. Just the top two would be Chaos Rising, followed by the original Dawn of War, and then at the very, very, very bottom, we have Dawn of War 3, of course. But from a gameplay perspective, guys, it's really hard to beat the Soulstorm experience. Not only do you have the variety that each of the different races introduces, but having base building, plus micromanagement, plus research, plus the armaments that you could equip on each and every one of your squads, creates a really engaging and difficult RTS that is kind of outmatched right now. I think that in terms of micro gameplay, Warcraft 3 might be the only one out there that kind of matches the level of intensity you need to play the original Dawn of War, which is why I think that King Art Games, I think, the studio who's developing Dawn of War 4, it's not Relic anymore, completely different studio, they're doing this return to form where, yeah, the game is going to be a bit difficult, but hey, at the same time, they're going to have 40-plus minutes worth of cinematics in Dawn of War 4. So they are not ignoring the story whatsoever. So I'm pretty excited. But yeah, that's how I'd rank them from a story and gameplay perspective.
The level of hype is rising. I can feel it inside me. Oh, I'm so excited. Real quick, as to not sort of like belabor this question, my ratings are very similar. Story-wise, Dawn of War 1 really has a special place in my heart because I really bought into the fact that like the Space Marines were like these larger than life characters who were fighting the forces of evil, and they were incorruptible. And then at the very end, to see your librarian turn on everything, you're like, oh, my world is shattered, and I am ruined emotionally. Exactly. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's probably why I like sad movies. I spent the most time playing Soulstorm, even with those terrible load times. I was like, I just that's all I want to play. I loved the style of the campaign. It was so rewarding to have that sort of galactic or system conquest. It's a similar system that games like Star Wars Empire at War have used really well, and they were so fun. I find myself wanting to play those types of games, coming back to them more often than not. Anytime I fire up Dawn of War 3, and it's been a couple different instances where I've really tried to give it a shake, and I just don't like it. Dawn of War 3, we're talking bottom of the barrel, do not like Dawn of War 3, and I think the biggest thing for me is like the time to kill. Just two squads shooting at each other, they take forever. I'm like, why is it so slow? In a world of exploding bullets, these people should just be taking each other out. And I found it just like at a snail's pace. And maybe that's part of like my user experience, because I didn't really take the time to get to know the different keystrokes and really like get good. But I'm like, it's boring. I'm like, why would I want to invest into a game that's boring? So I played the crap. Yeah. I played the crap out of Dark Crusade 2. I did not think it could get better after Dark Crusade, and then they came out with Soulstorm, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I loved Winter Assault. So anything from the first game is really in that love category for me. Like, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed them. Like, they're so good. Dawn of War 2, I played probably definitely a lot more than Dawn of War 3, but not nearly as much as Dawn of War 1. And I missed that large-scale fighting. And I can't speak to Chaos Rising and Retribution. Again, Nathan and we were sharing a computer for the majority of our life. So if he didn't play it, I probably didn't play it either. Even though I think at this point I own it. I think I bought it for like $1 or something on a Steam sale.
Humble bundles.
But now that because you said it was Chaos Rising, correct? The one where you go and collect the, I'm like, that's kind of scratching an itch for me. I'm like, I kind of want to see what's going on over there. So
I feel like that campaign doesn't pull its punches too. So if you're the kind of player who likes Dark Souls or other challenging games where you kind of got to bash your head against the wall a little bit, and then the game's like, hey, here's this easy mode though. Just equip the Chaos Bolter, and you'll do enough damage to the boss. Like you'll be fine. Like they did a very good job, kind of tempting the player. It's really good.
Oh God, I'm so weak.
I would have fallen to chaos every time. Guys, have you seen this? It's so easy.
We talked a lot about in some of our previous episodes about running through the original Knights of the Old Republic game and how learning the dark side powers was essentially easy mode, because you're like, of course I would fall to the dark side. You mean I can throw lightning at 6 different people at the same time? Yeah, I'm going to do that every time. Did you know, scientifically speaking, lightning is hella rad? It's so cool.
We have done quite a bit on that, and our current series is going through the light side playthrough of KOTOR, which is very, very fun. For our next question, we'll go into kind of a little bit more on the Blood Ravens, which is going to be a series of I don't knows, but kind of speculating wildly, as we sometimes like to do here. So, Jeficus, this one's for you. Based on what you know about the Blood Ravens, what are your thoughts about playing them some more?
I can't wait to play them some more. Obviously, I'm a super fan of the Blood Ravens. I think that for all the media that surrounds Dawn of War, like for example the books, I think there's a graphic novel or something. From what I've seen of it in summaries, because I've not actually read the stuff, and from what I've spoken to my chat about, they're not good. All the entire like series, the surrounding media, it's not good. A lot of the good lore is found directly from the games. So, when I hear that they're bringing Dawn of War 4 back and that there's going to be 40 plus minutes worth of like cinematics and cutscenes and stuff, like I'm excited because I'm excited to learn more about the Blood Ravens. Obviously, it's one of the most memed about chapters online. Blood Ravens stealing relics left and right.
For sure.
And just phenomenal memes that people have created, based on a little bit of truth as well. And I like how they have this mysterious background and mystique to the chapter, with their founding potentially being attributed to the Thousand Sons. So I think it's cool. The game would not have been the same if they had not invented a chapter for the game. If they had not gone with this idea.
Absolutely. That was like actually going to be a little bit of a follow-up question that I was going to be like, so who do you think was the lineage Primarch for this? And I actually agree. I actually I was like, yeah, we all think this is the Thousand Sons, right? Like they're way too magical for their own good. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
Yep.
I'm actually going to differ a little bit. I think the K-Sons being the actual founding legion for the Blood Ravens, I think it's a little bit of a red herring, and I actually think the Dark Angels are the founding chapter because the Dark Angels also have not necessarily the level of psychers that the Thousand Sons have, which is 100% of them, but they have quite a few psychers, and their dalliance in the shadows and them kind of keeping their own secrets. I could see that a splinter chapter broke off from the main legion after the Horus Heresy, and because they were trying to cover stuff up so much, and they probably were burning records left and right, I think the Dark Angels is a plausible founding chapter for the Blood Ravens.
Hey, maybe we'll get more info in Dawn of War 4, hopefully.
I'm looking forward to all of that sweet, sweet lore that's going to be coming out in all of those cinematics. For those listening at home, if you guys don't know anything about the Blood Ravens, they are famously known for being thieves and claiming stolen items that are chapter relics. If it can be picked up and stolen, it's getting stolen. Crime might not pay, but it sure is funny. As Jeficus mentioned, it is the backbone of Warhammer 40k memes. The Blood Ravens chapter almost literally appeared out of nowhere. No one knows where the founding legion was or even where they were founded. Literally, their Wikipedia just says unknown on 7 different categories. Since they weren't one of the original 20 legions, or 18, depending on how you count and how heretical you feel like being, they don't have a direct link to a Primarch in their history.
They're so mysterious. Jeficus, why don't you start us off on this one? What gameplay elements do you want to see in the 4th installment? We saw a lot of differences between the way Dawn of War 1, 2, and 3 all played. What do you think is going to serve the community best in Dawn of War 4 as far as gameplay goes?
Well, I think from what I've seen, what I've read from the interviews, the people that I've talked to, and from the developers as well, it's pretty much going to have everything that I'm looking for the release of a game, especially in big 2025, where you can't expect more than 4 factions because they're gonna monetize it. They're gonna release DLC and sell it back to you. Which, hey, they did it in the original Dawn of War. Why not do it with this one? That's okay. But we're gonna be getting, I guess, just to summarize everything, a pretty extensive single player campaign. We're getting the Last Stand mode included on release. We're getting multiplayer with, I'm pretty sure I heard, a pretty good spectating mode, so that for those people who like to do competitive tournaments, they can have casters basically narrate everything that's going on. And we're, of course, getting an army painter and all the features that I would want for the release of a Dawn of War game. And the only thing that I think I might run into is kind of the same wall that I ran into with Space Marine 2. Flashback, that was the last game we spoke about the last time I appeared on this podcast. My experience with the game was that I loved it, but it just needed more content. And a year later, it's got that content, and I love it so much now. It's one of my favorite games. I can't get enough of it.
It's not even the same game anymore.
It really
It's
isn't.
so-
No.
And like, I loved Space Marine 2 at launch, but like, I have a hard time pulling myself. Like, I still feel it calling to me, even though Borderlands 4 just came out. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I just got this brand new game, and I'm still looking over at Space Marine 2, and I'm like, oh, but they have a new class coming out. I gotta get that.
Oh yeah, and but I feel like Dawn of War 4 might be the kind of game where I'll enjoy on release. I'll do the campaign. I'll do some Last Stand. I'll do some multiplayer. Put a couple of hours into it, and then put the game down. Let it hibernate. Let it get better over the course of a year or 2 years as they release like more DLC, more armies, more Last Stand characters. And then the game will become a real theme park for me when I come back and experiment with the various new armies and characters and stuff like that. One thing I will say that it's not too concerning, but they're going to have 10 different commanders on release, I believe is what the developers have said. 10 commanders for 4 factions. So I would imagine that the Necrons and the Admech, because the Admech are going to be in this game. They're going to be this is their first appearance in a Dawn of War game, unless you've played modded. But
Exactly.
the I think that for both those factions, it's very likely that we'll see probably 2 commanders each, and then 3 commanders for the Orcs, 3 commanders for the Space Marines. Just going off of characters in my head and knowledge of the rest of the Dawn of War games. So that's probably going to be your commander layout. I would want to see more commanders. I would want to see a full roster of commanders for Necrons, full roster of commanders for the Admech, if that's how they're going to be dispersed. I suppose we'll see how they play, but this isn't, what edition were we in back in the Dawn of War days, like 4th edition or something? This is 10th edition going on 11th edition. Like, we have so many characters to draw from for all these factions. I really hope that they're able to deliver on basically these commanders and, of course, on the various units that are going to be in the game. Not sure if you guys are tracking, but this is going to be the most units in the game on any Dawn of War release ever. It's the highest amount, the highest count. So it's extremely ambitious. Like, they're going for it for this one, guys. It looks crazy.
Let's go. It's gonna be. It's like it. It really feels like everything that came from the unification mod that everyone played, because they're like, hey, we need bigger battles. We need Last Stand with the like OG play style, but we want it all together. I mean, for me, the biggest element I want to see is those big battles, the wide variety of factions, and honestly, Titans. I want to see some like Titanic units. Like, let's go big. You teased the Titan gun in Winter Assault. Let's just put it on legs and move it around the battlefield. Like, why not? Like, that would just be so cool.
I mean, they're going to have at least Knights. So Knights are going to be available for the Admech, which is going to be very cool.
So cool. Cannot wait.
As a Knight player myself, I actually traded in a significant portion of my Space Marine army for a Castigator Knight, which you can play in Horus Heresy or 40k. It's awesome. They're so cool. In the trailer, if you watched it at slow speed like what I did and took a bunch of screenshots, you actually see, I think it's the Castellan class Knight as an ally for both Space Marines and the Admech, which actually matches up with the tabletop game, because even though the Knights are their own faction, you can take them as allies in these other factions as well. But really excited to see the Knights. I think for me, there's not a lot for me to add other than what Nathan already said. I really enjoyed the larger scale battles that the Unification mod brought. At the time, the PC I was running, I brought my PC to its knees playing the Unification mod because there was just so much going on, and it really was awesome to see just these massive battles, and really that idea of just overwhelming waves coming at you, and just like all right, we're going to plant our boots in the sand and we are not going to move. We're going to hold fast, which like so many Warhammer books are just like, there's only 3 Space Marines against 3 million Tyranids, and they pull out the victory.
They all take off their helmets. Oh boy, I know what's going to happen here.
Oh no! Don't do it.
Oh man, and it's like, and that's actually sort of one thing I really like about Space Marine 2 is like the Horde mode has been really fun. They just keep adding so much stuff, and it's really a cool game, and I'm hoping they can catch some of that magic in the new installment of Dawn of War, even though it's in a completely different format. So, but I'm nervously apprehensive because Dawn of War 3 left such a bad taste in my mouth.
That's fair, yeah.
We shall see.
Andrew, to piggyback off of your previous point, though, so they are adding sync kills back into the game, but not only are they going to have sync kills, they're kind of inspired by Total Warhammer to add a system that's called the Battle Director. Basically, whenever
that's the custom animations, right?
Correct. So whenever your units engage in battle, like you're actually going to see them fighting exactly how like a Space Marine would fight an Orc or a Space Marine would fight a Necron. And it's really awesome that they're thinking about these things, because I think that a lot of people are going to pick this game up and they're not really going to be fans of RTS, real-time strategy. RTS is kind of a dying genre, to be honest. There are so many other games. Yeah, there are just so many other games, and maybe there were a lot of RTS back then because they were easier to make. Who knows? But it is a dying genre, unfortunately. But with a lot of these other features, it's going to keep a lot of people entertained. Like, there are going to be a lot of people who play Dawn of War 4 specifically for the story, and because the things that are going on the screen just look so freaking cool. Like, they just look so freaking awesome. So I think that it's going to be a very watchable game, which is something that Space Marine 2 is for me. Like, I love Darktide. Darktide's like my favorite 40k game, but it's not very watchable, especially at a higher level. There's just so much happening on the screen. It's nauseating for some people. But for Space Marine 2, it is very watchable. Very, very watchable. And I think that's one of the game's strong points. So
I have so many clips on my Xbox of where I would do this like cool execution in Space Marine 2, and I was like, oh, I should clip that and turn it into a short later. And then I end up with like gigabytes of video, and I'm like, some of these are legitimately cool, but I did not need to take this many recordings because you're right. It's so watchable. It's so cinematic. Like,
yes,
because your character just, I mean, some of my favorite kill animations is like, it's got to be the hammer where he just like swings for the fences and the Tyranid or whatever just disappears. Oh, so great. And I'm not thinking about the MLB postseason at all right now.
All right, folks, we'll move into our last one. Andrew, do we have time for the last one?
Yeah, I think we should squeeze this last one in.
Sweet.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Jeficus, we'll hit you with this one. We're going to burn some bridges with this one, so it's going to be a good time. So this can be about any part of the fandom. It can be part of books, cinema, games, whatever. What is one Warhammer opinion that would most likely incite an angry mob?
Oh, that I have.
I was going to say, if they personally.
I was going to say, I mean, if they added like female Space Marines or whatever, that would just like explode the community. That would be, kaput. My not so hot take is that Primaris Marines were a mistake. I think that Games Workshop never should have done Primaris Marines.
Good one.
I feel like Primaris Marines were released just as a business or marketing tool in order to resell the same minis to their fan base because they wanted to get the same fan base to buy the minis again. It's a shame that they did business that way. It kind of turned me off from the tabletop game for quite a long time. What I'm waiting for are I'm waiting for Games Workshop to start selling the STLs so that we can 3D print these. Are they called STL files? I can't recall.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, perfect, yeah. I'm waiting for them to start selling the STLs. There are other people who are already doing it. I think that there's a pretty major legal battle going on right now between Games Workshop and a company in Italy, I believe. And I think this is going to kind of be the deciding factor on this STL situation. So I'm kind of sitting here waiting patiently for that to resolve. But yeah, the Primaris Marines, like, I think they were a major, massive mistake. Just so stupid.
I actually do really like that opinion. And as somebody who, and that's rough because I can easily see how enraging that would have been to have an entire army of Space Marines, of Firstborn Marines, and they're like, those ones are too small now. And it'd be like,
your entire range is obsolete.
Like, I would be at the head of the angry mob, like trying to burn down Games Workshop. Like, I just straight up would. Andrew, do you have any opinions that would trigger an angry mob?
I do. I have to hide or undo the coloring. I did want to, on the female Space Marine note, a creator who does Warhammer animations called Flash Gits. He's really funny.
King.
I think he's really funny. Yeah, he does a Space King
really
thing,
good.
and he has like a 2 or 3 minute video about like why girls are gross, and he does like a no girls are allowed thing, and I laughed so hard. It's like really tongue in cheek. He does a lot of really fun stuff. Definitely like listen to his stuff with headphones on. That's all I'm going to say.
Not at work. Do not listen at work.
Yeah. My mob-inducing opinion is I thought Chaos Space Marines were like for a really long time. I thought Chaos Space Marines were not very cool because Dawn of War 1 was my first exposure to the Chaos Space Marines. And because I have no personality whatsoever, I'm like, Space Marines are the coolest. That's all I need. I probably would have been a huge Ultramarines fan at the very beginning because I'm like, yeah, default vanilla all the way. But like playing Dawn of War 1 while playing as the Chaos Space Marines, I always thought they were just like dog shit because they behaved like Space Marines we have, but at home. Their squads were a little bit larger, but they seemed to be a little weaker overall. And it's actually taken me a really long time to shake off that that bad first impression of Chaos that I got. Now, it really killed my enjoyment of their faction. But their stories brought me back. And as I started delving into the Horus Heresy, I found out that a lot of the Chaos Primarchs have honestly better stories than the Loyalist ones, in my opinion. Tragic. It's just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And I find myself wanting to play as Chaos in a lot of games now because I think they're so... I think they have a really compelling story. Their armors are cool. Except for Lorgar and Erebus. They suck, they know it, and they always will.
To finish everything off here, my hot take, and now this is not geared towards Dawn of War 4 at all, but my hot take that would incite an angry mob is that I think Space Marines need to take a backseat in the lore for a while. And not just a backseat, I'm talking like fourth row in a 15-person passenger van. I think they need to be way in the back for a while because we have so many cool factions that like I have just loved reading about like more and more. I think the Space Marines are right now catch-all heroes, and I think we should move the lore into focusing on different factions like Orcs, Tau, Necrons, but still sticking with the fight against Chaos and the current plight that is the galaxy-wide invasion of the Tyranids. Sorry, playing too much Helldivers. My bad. Cross genres there for a second. The Tyranids. I think we should see how these factions interact. I want to read an omnibus about how the Orcs are fighting the Tyranids. I want to see how these arms are invading Tau space. I want to see all the Necron tomb worlds getting woken up and just pissed off that there's bugs all over their planet now. I want to read and like play all those stories. So that would be my hot take.
I don't know if that's really a hot take, Nathan. I think a lot of people in the community kind of share that opinion. It doesn't appear like it because Space Marines are what sell, like on the tabletop, especially, yes. And just in like I guess novels, books. But for the most part, I think a lot of the people that I've spoken to in like the Space Marine 2 community and the Dark Tide community, a lot of people are really tired of Games Workshop pushing Space Marines on us. Like, everyone is getting Space Marine fatigue, for sure.
That's good to hear, because sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy, and I'm like, we don't have to all read about the Space Marines anymore. We could read about some other things. And that being said, there are like a lot of novels that like focus around like the Imperial Guard, for example. There's like dozens of books that cover
Gaunt's
them.
Ghosts.
Yeah, Gaunt's Ghosts is literally the first one that like comes to mind.
So good.
Yeah.
So a lot of different books, things that I would like to put on an imaginary bookshelf that I have not built yet, but I would like to. So absolutely. Jeficus, thank you so much for your time
Can
today.
I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
So what is of everything that's happening in 40K right now, what is your most anticipated release next year?
Andrew, I'll tackle this one first. For everything that's coming out, I have enough, and this is just, I'll give you a little bit of context. I have enough in my own pile of shame right now that I'm a little bit pumping the brakes on my tabletop adventures because I have more orcs that I can paint. I'm trying to build a second army, which is probably going to be a huge folly, and am also currently in school. So that is like, it feels like an impossible task to keep up on. For all the painting. So like right now I have enough to play combat patrols and a pretty decently sized army. I have like 1,600 points of like actual painted orcs and no paint on any Tau. I'm looking around at my models and I'm like, no, none of them have paint. So for me, it would be and this is also going to sound, I'll also preface, I have not read The Siege of Terra yet. I am working on it. It's on my to-do list.
It's pretty good.
I do know it's pretty good, but the problem is I know what happens. And so I'm like, yeah, I know it's going to be epic, but I'm kind of ignoring it for now because for me, I'm psyched about Dawn of War 4. I mean, like that is, I know we're talking about that the whole time, but I'm like, it's got to be that for me. I have not had the time to get into Space Marine 2. I have a very paltry number of hours logged in that game. I've really enjoyed it, especially with the changes that they've made, but I am a sucker for RTS. I think for me, and you touched on this at the beginning of the episode, it strikes a nostalgia chord that I have a hard time, it needs to be scratched pretty often, which is literally why I play StarCraft 2 all the time still. So that is going to be, I think, just immediately more appealing to me. So I think it's definitely going to be the Dawn of War 4 release.
Nathan, have you read any Brandon Sanderson novels, Stormlight Archive, any of that?
So, funny that you ask. I've officially started reading the first one.
Let's go, dude!
Earlier this month.
Yes!
I am literally only on chapter 4 of... Oh gosh, where's my phone? I had to actually pause reading it because every October...
Bridge 4, baby!
Yeah, so every October I re-listen to the book Red Harvest, by, I think it's Joe Schreiber, excuse me. And it's a Star Wars zombie book. I read it every Halloween season. I can't talk. And that's always what I do, but we were driving home from Leavenworth the other day, which is just a city in Washington, and we had a long ride. And yeah, I just started Mistborn: The Final Empire, and I am. I've read chapter 0 because there's a chapter 0, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm on chapter 4, which has 51 minutes in it, or at least 51 minutes left. These are long chapters. Even my wife said, she's like, this has a lot of world building in it. And I was like, I was told to expect the most detailed lore possible out of almost any series. And I've really been enjoying it so far. I'm already kind of lost. I'm not going to lie. I'm already kind of lost. But I've been told that that's normal. And it continues to kind of build and make sense as the story goes on.
Well, the point that I was getting at was that in the Stormlight Archives, there is a saying, journey before destination. And the Siege of Terra embodies that saying so well, because we know what's going to happen. We know exactly what's going to happen in the end of the Siege of Terra. But the way that the writers write these stories and create these character moments for Sanguinius, for Vulcan, for the Khan. It's written so well. Like, it really is the embodiment of Journey Before Destination, because the journey itself
Absolutely.
is just so damn good. So,
well, and I've read like the first, like, I think 50 books. I have a pirated collection of Horus Heresy books, so I don't have all of them, but I have most of them, which I've listened to everything that I have on my phone at least 3 times. I usually try to listen through at the beginning of the year, and I just do it while I'm doing everything. So sometimes it kind of feels like I'm reading it for the first time again. And especially Vulcan's story always sticks out to me. Like, his story is really tragic. He goes through so much for the Emperor, and it kind of feels like there's a lot of times where I feel like he is not getting the justice he deserves for how much he goes through, especially with his interactions with his brother Conrad. And it really, like, his story especially, I think really resonates with that Journey Before Destination. Absolutely.
Andrew, what are you looking forward to?
Towards the end of the year, Games Workshop always puts out their big post of like, hey, here's the battle forces that we're going to come out with. Out of all of the factions on there, I'm not actually excited about any of them except for 2. One of them is the Space Marine 1, and I have literally almost every model already in that one. So I'm having to talk myself down and saying, you don't need that. You have all of those. Don't buy them. But another one of the battle boxes that is coming out is, I had to look it up because I couldn't remember what it was called, but it is Leagues of Votan. I love space dwarves. I think that's such a fun concept. They're so cool. I really like a lot of their datasheet profiles and the fact of like how shooty they are. And it really, I think, is a good crossover into some of the more fantasy elements of 40K. Because they have, gravity hammers and these giant like mauls and stuff, and I think they're fascinating. The one that I'm looking at is called the Chthonian Prospect, and I think I'm like, if I'm going to buy one of them, it's going to be that one, and potentially start a third army. We'll see. Has anyone ever else lost with 3 armies and never won?
No, boy. I think my favorite thing about the kin in 40K is super capitalism. Their entire society is based off of it, so...
They're like, we love capitalism. I think one thing that's actually kind of kept me in the tabletop hobby, despite the increasingly rising costs of the tabletop game, which is... We could probably do a whole episode on how Games Workshop pricing is... it's like near criminal. It's way too high. It's like, you guys aren't paying anything to produce these, like for models that they already own. Like, I'm like, you guys already have the injection molded dies for these. Those can make you thousands of models. It doesn't cost you anything to, like, you have already paid to have that. Like, that is a piece of equipment that they own. It's not a subscription thing. It's like, you own that. Why is the cost still going up? So that gets me a little fiery. But the 3D printing community has been such a lifesaver, because I've been able to do a lot of like kit bashing, and I've been able to find models that maybe cater to my special interests maybe a little bit more. I have a couple Space Marine tanks that are literally just dinosaurs with guns on them. And I think that's really cool. And like, that's all thanks to folks on like Etsy's a big site where you can get like 3D printed stuff. I talked to a lot of the guys on our Discord server. A bunch of guys are like, yeah, we 3D print our own stuff because it's the only way we can afford to play this game, or like, they can print whatever they want. Like, we had one guy who he printed out this like really goofy looking tank. It's actually taller than it is wide, and he like gave it to his kid to like mess around with. Like, his kid painted it and like picked it out, and he printed it for him, and he's like, I don't care if he destroys it because it cost me nothing. Like, whereas like if you were to give a kid a Bane blade, because that's about as big as it is, you'd be like, ooh, yeah, actually be a little careful with that. That cost me a ton of money. It's not really replaceable.
Wait until you're older. Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to get rid of Jimmy at that point. But the
You're the kid in the tank.
I think that I think that Games Workshop is eventually going to be pressured into basically providing consumers with a direct path to buying the STLs directly, because there was already a massive leak. A disgruntled employee basically went out and released every single STL for every single unit in 40K. And whenever they uploaded it to that website, it was downloaded like over 10,000 times. So they're out there. People have them. Like they are floating around. But what I'm looking forward to next year the most is actually Dark Heresy, because Eisenhorn is my favorite book series. That entire Inquisitor series is phenomenal. I love the Inquisition. I love the just the terrible situation that the Imperium is in that requires the Inquisition to exist, period. And so the Dark Heresy game is going to be great. It's basically just going to be Rogue Trader, but better. So I'm super excited for that.
Question for you on Dark Heresy. Is that one a turn-based combat game?
It is, yes. It's a CRPG. Okay. The major leap over Rogue Trader is going to be that Rogue Trader was not fully voice acted. This one is going to be fully voice acted. It's going to be much.
I love that.
It's going to be much more similar to Baldur's Gate 3. That's exactly what Alcat's going for.
Let's go.
See, that is the best pitch
awesome.
I've heard of this game so far, because I only watched the trailer and I was like, why, how and why is this any different than Rogue Trader? Because I was like, Warhammer actually has quite a few turn-based strategy games that are floating out around there, and they're not all good. So I was initially, I was like, I'm not interested in Dark Heresy. I have no interest in this. But you saying that, like, oh, this is going to be more like Baldur's Gate 3. I'm like, okay, well, that piques my interest. That is the, like, and it just goes to show, I'm like, maybe Games Workshop isn't actually good at marketing their games, because they do produce a lot of games that are really similar. But I mean, that sounds awesome. And you're right, Eisenhorn is so cool. Because I have not read Eisenhorn. I've read a little bit of Caiaphas Cain and a ton of Gaunt's Ghosts, but I've Eisenhorn's on my list. But oh man, that actually gets me really excited. It wasn't even something on my radar, because I honestly, I just dismissed it out of hand, because I was like, this is just another turn-based game. Why should I care? But that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think Baldur's Gate 3 really changed the way that a lot of these guys look at video games, and they understand now that people are willing to look past the genre itself, because the story is good, because you're able to really take your character's fate into your own hands, make choices that actually matter, have voice actors come in, do their thing, deliver a fantastic performance and narrative, and all of those elements, which we're going to be seeing in Dawn of War 4 as well. I think Dawn of War 4 is going to be more than just an RTS. It's going to be an experience, which any good 40K game basically needs to compete with the rest of the market.
For sure.
And we are getting more and more mainstream. This isn't just Warhammer 40K Warp Force, the card game, anymore. Like, you're getting Space Marine 2, cinematic experience, millions of copies sold, hundreds of thousand players playing every day. Like, we're getting there, boys. I think we talked about this last year. Like, it's only a matter of time before 40K really breaks into the mainstream. I really think that the Henry Cavill show is gonna be the straw that breaks the camel's back, if anything. So,
yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of people chat with me about Warhammer, and it's funny because they're always like, "Oh, is that the game you play with the minis?" I heard that was really expensive, and I'm like, no, it's so much more than just. And I tell people, I didn't even start playing tabletop until I was already a full grown lad. Like, there's so many other things to do and see, and I think you're right. I think we are on the precipice of, like, this really breaking out, which I think it feels kind of crazy to say because there are so many people that play it, but it's still not as ubiquitous as other titles. So it's still the fact that it has so much room to grow still kind of boggles my mind.
Yeah, I always think about just Super Mario, just the entire Mario franchise. It dwarfs Warhammer. It's actually insane how just one character has had much more impact on society in general than like an entire franchise. But that's just how marketing and all that stuff works. So
everybody knows that it's a Mia.
Exactly.
And that Luigi is everyone's favorite, but
I don't know why I keep getting sent to HR because I keep quoting Warhammer instead of Mario to people. Purge the heretic. Apparently is not an appropriate thing to say on a Teams call.
All right, folks. Jeficus, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have anything you would like to say that you felt like you didn't get to share with the folks at home here today?
No. Just everyone remember that the Emperor protects.
Fantastic. Guys, make sure to go over to Jeficus's channel over on YouTube where he's putting out all sorts of fun videos, which we're seeing starting to get some pretty serious views on there, Jeficus. We're super excited for you. But make sure you guys go see him on there. He's got links to his other socials on that platform. But make sure you guys go check him out on YouTube or also Twitch, correct?
Yeah, Twitch nowadays as well.
Fantastic. So make sure you guys check him out on those platforms. And until next time, everybody, the Emperor protects.